Heidely ho, drinkerinos. It is another episode of the Idaho Booze Podcast with me, Steve Koontz. On today's show, I am rolling solo to talk about the current state of the Idaho brewing scene. Plus, an old friend of the show is leaving us here in the Treasure Valley anyway, and an Idaho dairy company breaks bad. What that means for you and me, and why this story has me so goddamn angry. Oh, God. All that and more coming up on this week's episode of the Idaho Booze Podcast. It's the Warren Reserve Cocktail of the Week. This week's cocktail comes to us all the way from my bar right downstairs, and it's a drink I put together just for you. It's a chili lime mezcal margarita, and you want to make sure that you have a nice mezcal on hand. The bottle that I got was purchased in Mexico, duty free, and after 8 months or so, I decided to open it up. It is a little on the smoky side, so if you don't like smoky, this might not be for you. But it also boasts a lot of flavors of like overripened fruit, grass, and there's like a touch of like sweetness in there, like an agave sweetness, I guess. So that's what I'm working with. You can also be boring and substitute the mezcal for tequila or even like a Highland Scotch. Nothing like peaty, just something like a Glen, any Glen to do, any Johnny Walker. It's up to you. Anyway. So first thing you want to do is you want to rim that glass with some salt. You throw some lime juice on the rim, roll it around in some salt, add the ice. Then I put the bitters in first. So this is the chili lime, the Warren Reserve chili lime bitters. They're pretty spicy. So I went with 4 to 5 dashes. You probably don't want to do more than that because it's going to get pretty spicy after that. But if you like the spice, hell, go for it. It's your drink. Then I add the simple syrup. It's going to be a half an ounce of simple syrup. Don't skimp on that. I know a lot of times when you're making like an old fashioned or something, you want to go little on the simple syrup, but this time I think it needs it. So the full half ounce. Then I'm going to do 1 ounce of lime juice. You could do ounce and a half. I think I did 1.5 ounces. It was just like 1 lime. So, make sure you squeeze your citrus. That makes it taste better. And then you're going to throw your mezcal in there, 2 ounces of mezcal. So this is like a 2-1/2 drink, I guess, if Ben were to tell us how it goes. I think it should be a 2-1/2 or 2-1-1, but I like less simple syrup, so I guess I'm going with a 2-1/2 on this one. So 1 ounce of lime juice. Then you shake that all, or don't shake it, I'm sorry. You stir that all up and wait until the outside of that glass is nice and chilly. And then if you want to be fancy about it, you can float a half an ounce of Cointreau Grand Marnier on top to Cadillac it up. I found the Grand Marnier floater to be a little much, but if you like a Cadillac margarita, then have at it. If you have an idea for the Warren Reserve Cocktail of the Week, send it in. IdahoBoozePod@gmail.com. And if I pick your cocktail, then you will get a free prize pack from Warren Reserve. This show brought to you by Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Looking to spice things up in the cocktail department? Try adding a little taste of chili to your next cocktail with chili lime bitters from Warren Reserve. Just 2 drops will give your old-fashioned, whiskey sour, or margarita just the right amount of zing to warm you up in these cold winter months. Want to feel the burn? Just add another 2 drops. Chili lime bitters turn a simple Bloody Mary into a beautiful spicy bloody without adding more mix or booze. Just a couple of drops of chili lime bitters will do ya. Get chili lime bitters at warrenreserve.com, order online, get free delivery, plus save 15% on orders over $40 with my promo code IdahoBooze25 at checkout. That's warrenreserve.com, IdahoBooze25 at checkout. Save tons of money on awesome bitters from Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. Now, this is some news that really just grinds my gears. So Darigold, the big, milk dairy conglomerate, they got hit with a huge fine. This was their milk plant in Caldwell, so here in southern Idaho. They were dumping E. coli into the Boise River. Remember E. coli? That's that stuff that killed a bunch of people a million years ago at a Jack in the Box in Washington State. Or actually just kind of right down from where I grew up. Now look, we all know E. coli is a naturally occurring enzyme or whatever, but dairies, I don't think anyway, should be dumping literal shit into our river. The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, hit them with a fine for violating the Clean Water Act. 318 large. It's 318 bans, $318,000 for the second largest. It's the second largest fine ever for a Pacific Northwest company. And the aptly named Clearwater Paper in Lewiston, they hold the record for the largest fine. So congrats to you guys over at Clearwater in Lewiston. Can't imagine what you could have done in Lewiston to make that place smell anymore, but good on you. Darigold, according to Yahoo News, dumped 300,000 gallons a day of this wastewater, this evaporated condensate from whey into the lower Boise River, which they have a permit for, whatever. I mean, what are you going to do? Which, all this stuff then flows into the Snake River, then it flows into the Columbia River, then it gets out to the Pacific Ocean. So what Darigold did to get this fine was they dumped a bunch of E. coli from this evaporated condensate from whey. There was an off product of it that has E. coli in it. And, they're able to dump a certain amount. They dumped 6 times the legal limit of E. coli into the Boise River. And they did it without impunity. They did it, the EPA says, 4 or 5 different times. I mean, who knows how many times they really did it. So the EPA stepped in and fined them. And this really pisses me off for a number of reasons. There's probably 15 to 20 reasons why this makes me upset, but I'm going to stick to 2. Okay. I can get trouble for saying this, but dairy and the major agricultural industries get whatever they want in Idaho. Governor Little is a rancher. He's the largest landowner in the whole state with his family's ranch. State legislature is run by dairy, beef, potato, grain farmers, you name it. And this is another example of sort of this ag company, Darigold, not even sort of an ag company, Darigold, getting off easy, which I think. The fine was large. I mean, $318,000 is a lot of money, but it just tells you more how badly Darigold screwed up. This fine would have been, nothing or a slap on the wrist if it wasn't a huge deal because of the sway that agriculture has in our state. And for good reason. Agriculture pays a lot of taxes. They have a lot of employees. They do a lot of good for the state. No one's coming down on ag. But if this would have been a brewery or another paper mill, this fine would have definitely been more towards the $1 million category. Clearwater Paper, what they did, and for their number one fine from the EPA ever for a Pacific Northwest company, $367,000. So only $50,000 more than what Darigold did. Clearwater Paper released a highly toxic, deadly gas, chlorine gas, into the atmosphere on at least 3 different occasions. The releases of gas were so bad, of this chlorine gas were so bad, that Clearwater shut down its facility and evacuated the premises with several employees seeking medical attention after the release. So they hurt their own employees, they gassed the area around wherever their facility is in Lewiston, and they only had to pay $367,000. What? I mean, that's not even $500,000. They gassed their own people. It doesn't seem like a lot to me. 367. It doesn't. It just doesn't. Not when you're releasing this deadly gas into the air and then evacuating your own facility. Now, Darigold pumped 6 times the legal limit of E. coli into our Boise River, and they were fined $50,000 less. So that just tells you, okay, maybe it just, the Clearwater thing is bad. Chlorine gas is bad. But what Darigold did, and what they have been doing without anybody stopping them for who knows how long, is they've basically polluted the entire Northwest with E. coli. Think about it. They dump this E. coli 6 times the legal limit into the Boise River, the lower Boise River out in Caldwell. And where does that go? Well, that goes right to the Columbia River, or the Snake River. It goes right to the Snake River. Then it goes to the Columbia River. Then it goes to the Pacific Ocean. So that's all the water in Oregon, Washington, Idaho. That's groundwater. That's recreational water. People fish in there. They eat the fish out of there. It seeps into groundwater for drinking. If this is a way for Darigold to take out the competition by eliminating our clean drinking water, I get it. Because that is kind of what they're doing here. Man, the effect of Darigold's E. coli dump on the environment is almost incalculable. I mean, the water is used for everything. It's just you know, E. coli can cause a bunch of problems. It can kill you, UTIs, diarrhea, other infections. It's just a bad look, and it's just gross too. It's just really gross. So this bothers me even more, thinking about that they did get fined, which is at least, you know, happened. I don't even really want to get into what the new administration in DC would do if this came up like today. Like if today the EPA found that they were dumping E. coli into the river. I bet the last Trump administration hired an oil man from Oklahoma, this guy named Scott Pruitt, to run the EPA. He was such a disaster flying private jets, which is one of the worst things you can do for the environment. And he flew them back and forth from DC to Oklahoma every other weekend or every weekend or whatever it was. And he was dining out on the EPA dime. He was doing all this stuff. He was so bad. He was such a disgrace. He was actually forced to resign, which is crazy if you think about it. Anyway, I guess it's good that Darigold got before Monday, because otherwise they probably wouldn't have got it at all. So what does this have to do with booze? Let's get back to booze. So this Darigold thing makes me upset because, I mean, the bigger reason, which has more to do with why you're listening today, is alcohol. So in Idaho and in every state, pretty much, alcohol manufacturers have to pay this thing. It's called an excise tax. It's a tax that manufacturers pay out to the state government before they even sell a drop of beer or wine or whiskey or anything like that. In Idaho, breweries have to pay 15 cents per gallon. Well, that doesn't sound too bad, does it? 15 cents per gallon, we could do that. That is for all the beer that they produce that's under 4% alcohol, which is none of the beer that they produce. Guess what happens once they get over 4%? The state sticks them with 3x that amount, 45 cents per gallon for anything over 4%, which is basically every beer that's made here. 45 cents a gallon, can you imagine? My God. And then you have to turn around and try to sell it for $10 a six pack. It's just ridiculous. Winemakers have to pay that same 45 cents per gallon, but they get to sell their wines for, you know, 15, 20 bucks a bottle. Liquor excise taxes, even worse, with our friends at Koenig and others paying $12.15 per gallon of everything that's over 80 proof and over. $12.15 per gallon. You can see why whiskey costs so much. Well, friends, guess how much Darigold pays? Guess how much they pay in excise tax? I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with zero. They pay $0 in excise tax. You don't even pay sales tax on it either. All milk and bread and everything, you don't pay a sales tax on there. So they pay $0 in excise tax. Well, you know, I have this whole thing about excise tax and how it's outdated punishment to counter bootlegging, but we'll have to do that another time. Needless to say, I am not a fan of excise tax. I don't think it helps anyone. And it's basically like putting a tariff on our own products, which, you know, it's outrageous. It's crazy. All right. So the second thing, subsection B, the Darigold fine itself, $318,000, is very troubling to me. Sheila Francis came on the show a few weeks ago, and we talked about an issue local breweries were having with wastewater. The city of Boise and some other cities around had started demanding back pay for wastewater disposal that it had previously waived or discounted to entice, you know, entrepreneurs to open up breweries in Boise and Ada County. Canyon County also did a similar kind of program. Anyway, the state, which is already charging breweries 45 cents a fucking gallon to produce beer before they sell a drop, tried to get these same breweries to pay upwards of $300,000. I think Payette had something like that. It's a big fee. Not a fine, fee. Payette did nothing wrong. $300,000 in back wastewater fees, not fines. So there's a huge difference there. A fee is something you pay to do something on the up and up, like disposal of wastewater or whatever. A fine is something you get hit with when you do something wrong, like dumping shit water into our rivers. So when I say that Darigold had gotten a fine that was basically the same as the fees that Boise wanted to extract from our local breweries, it triggers me a little bit. Breweries deal, and I mean, what the breweries put out in wastewater isn't even close to what this Darigold puts out. I mean, you got grain runoff from the sparge. Big deal. It's just like basically bread water. There's some chemicals. Caustic is the biggest one, and there's also some fermented beer that gets out there, and it's all pretty basic, and doesn't have any E. coli in it as far as I know. Caustic is probably the worst thing that comes out of a brewery, and it's just like this chemical that they use to clean tanks. It's basically like dishwasher detergent on steroids. It's like if you ever sometimes you'll get a beer where they just clean the lines and get like that slick. That's caustic. It's not great for you. I mean, I've swallowed some in my time. It's not great, but it's not E. coli. Darigold dumps shit water and receives a fine similar to the fees for dishwater coming out of Boise's breweries. That's crazy. It is officially winter cabin season in Idaho, and there is no better place to stock up than Treasure Valley Chevron. TVC carries an amazing selection of craft beer, wine, hard seltzers, and other fun adult beverages that will turn a lazy weekend at the cabin into an epic mountain party. TVC also carries plenty of other essentials for mountain living, like propane, firewood, s'mores materials, and you might even find a cozy blanket. TVC has it all. Snap a picture of yourself picking up some cabin essentials at TVC. Win a free box of jerky from Old Wisconsin. Just send the picture to us at idahobooze@gmail.com to enter to win a huge box of jerky from Treasure Valley Chevron. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. Oof, I'm glad I got that off my chest about Darigold. That was driving me nuts. All better now. Friend of the show, Bob Huebbler. He has put out, and he does every year, sort of the state of the Idaho beer business. He puts this out on his excellent website. Go check it out, boisebeerculture.blogspot.com. I've been using that site since I wrote my book about a dozen years ago. Bob does a great job of keeping up with all the happenings in the business of beer. I mean, you can see him at breweries. He's all over the place. I see him all the time. I run into him. Him and his lovely wife, Nelda. They're just really nice people. It's great to see them anytime I see him in and about town. And Bob does a great job on Boise Beer Culture. He makes sure that everyone is kind of kept abreast of what's going on in the beer community. He keeps track of openings and closures, and he has pictures on there. It's a really cool website. You should check it out. Basically, though, this year, the state of the beer business isn't great. Idaho had more breweries closed than open. Bob says it's the first time that's happened since the 80s. So, there you go. The holidays are over, but that does not mean giving up on the holiday cheer. And the best way to get to cheer is through beer. And that's why you need a Boise Beer Buddies card. This card and the amazing Boise Beer Buddies app unlock incredible savings at the best restaurants, bars, breweries, and even a bunch of great wineries in Idaho. Many save you $1 or more. Some save you as much as 25% off your whole bill. The best part is you make other beer buddies through Boise Beer Buddies' amazing social media connection pages. Save money on beers you're already buying. Upgrade your cheer and be a buddy by picking up your Boise Beer Buddies card today. Use promo code IdahoBooze at checkout. Get a free card with the purchase of one at boisebeerbuddies.com. Welcome back to the show. Idaho Booze Podcast with me, Steve Kuntz. Well, our friend Sheila Francis, who's been on the show twice and does a great job every time she comes on. She has been the steward and leader and executive director and founder of the Idaho Brewers United for, 8 years, maybe 9 years, something like that. She is moving on. She's leaving the IBU. She's leaving the Treasure Valley for greener pastures and greener valleys. Her impact on Idaho beer is, I would say, large. She has been a lead proponent for Idaho craft breweries at the state level, the legislature, the local level, putting on events such as Destination Beer. We did one at the zoo one time that was really fun. She's done a really great job of getting the names of local breweries out there. She's worked tirelessly to get this app out there that's really good, the Idaho Trails app, the app that I've talked about on this show several times. She's done a great job being out there at the breweries, meeting everyone. I mean, she's a great font of knowledge for everything that goes on in the Idaho beer scene, and I, for one, will miss her a lot. She gets a lot of shit. No doubt about that. Her brother is the owner of Payette Brewing, and when she first started IBU and first started doing that, she got a lot of shit for it. She really did. I didn't think it was warranted at the time. Don't think it's warranted now. Feel like she's her own person. I mean, obviously she's close with her brother, but like I never saw her. And I was at a brewery that we quickly got onto IBU and we quickly started doing stuff with them. And it was of great importance to us at Edge that we did that stuff because it kind of put us in line with the rest of the state. We were able to go and do stuff that people up north maybe saw, so it made it easier to sell beer up there. And Sheila was the impetus for all this stuff. She basically founded the IBU. She basically kept it running for the last, 8 or 9 or 10 years, whatever it's been. And I'm not sure. I'm going to be honest. I don't know what's going to happen when she leaves. And I bet a lot of people at IBU and in the brew community feel that way. I haven't talked to anyone about it. I would love to hear from people about it. If you have something to say about it, go ahead and hit me up, idahoboozepod@gmail.com. But yeah, Sheila has been a great source of knowledge, a great friend. She's helped with my show a lot. And man, all I can really say is I'm going to miss her. She's just a really great person. And I wish her nothing but the best heading up to her new gig and her new life far away from here. I think she'll do great. And you guys up there are lucky to get her. So Sheila, thank you so much. Good luck and good drinking. This show brought to you by Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Looking to spice things up in the cocktail department? Try adding a little taste of chili to your next cocktail with Chili Lime Bitters from Warren Reserve. Just 2 drops will give your old-fashioned, whiskey sour, or margarita just the right amount of zing to warm you up in these cold winter months. Want to feel the burn? Just add another 2 drops. Chili Lime Bitters turn a simple Bloody Mary into a beautiful spicy Bloody without adding more mix or booze. Just a couple of drops of Chili Lime Bitters will do ya. Get Chili Lime Bitters at warrenreserve.com, order online, get free delivery, plus save 15% on orders over $40 with my promo code IdahoBooze25 at checkout. That's warrenreserve.com, IdahoBooze25 at checkout. Save tons of money on awesome bitters from Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Welcome back to the Idaho Booze Podcast. I'm your host, Steve Kuntz. Oh my goodness, it's been a lot of talking today. That's all right. Yeah, it's all right. Got a lot to say. I want to thank my sponsors, Warren Reserve Cocktail Company. Go to the website. It's on my show notes. You can click through there. Use my code IdahoBooze25. You get 15% off $40, or when you spend $40, 15 whole percent. Like, look, you're not going to spend less than $40. You're buying bitters. You're buying cocktail syrups. They're not cheap, and these things are awesome. And I recommend you trying out that chili lime mezcal margarita. That thing is dope. I think that might be my drink moving forward. I just really like it. If you have a submission for the Warren Reserve Cocktail of the Week, send it in to idahoboozepod@gmail.com. Also want to thank Treasure Valley Chevron for sponsoring the show. Nice guys over there. Thank you so much for all that you do. I want to thank Boise Beer Buddies, Stacy Connolly. She's doing great. If you don't have a Boise Beer Buddies card, I don't know what to do for you. I'm giving you one for free. You go on to the website there, use the code, I think it's Idaho Booze or Booze Pod, code Booze Pod. I think you get a buy one, get one free over there. I need to re-up mine. So Stacy, if you're listening, I got to get a re-up for mine. Just expired this last month. So help me out with that if you could. Finally, I want to thank Idaho Brewers United, Sheila Francis, for all that she's done and all that you guys do. Check out the app, the Trail app, Idaho Trail app. It's cool. I've used it a lot, and I think that you guys should too. You can win a bunch of prizes. You can do a lot of fun stuff with it. And it's more like, to me, like a nice little diary for all the, wherever you go. Because let's face it, sometimes in the morning, it's tough to remember all that stuff. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Pods, YouTube, Substack. And you know what? If you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple or Substack or YouTube or wherever, go ahead and give us a subscribe, give us a comment, and rate us if you wouldn't mind. I'd love to hear what you guys think. Honestly, I was talking to some guys the other day in a local place, and they were telling me that some of them listen, and they'll come in and go out when they see something that interests them or whatever. I love that kind of feedback. So keep giving it to me on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Pods, Substack. And if you would like, if you'd like to sponsor the show, hit us up on idahoboozepod@gmail.com. I think you'll find our rates to be both fair and enticing. Want to thank me for today's show. Just kidding. Oh, people that don't like me will love that. They will love that. Oh my God. No, I want to thank you guys out there for listening. I really appreciate you guys checking out the show, listening, keeping me honest. And really, I just want to say thank you to everyone that's been on the show before, that's going to come on in the future. We're going to have some awesome guests. Hopefully we can get someone great next week. Still working on who that might be, but we'll find someone. We usually do. But thank you so much for listening to the show. Really appreciate it. Good day and good drinking, everyone.